What is up, maniacs? Welcome back to Sound and Pound. It is Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. We are your hosts, Drake Riggs and Alex Behunin here at MMania.com to bring you the latest and greatest in the world of mixed martial arts. So many things happening this weekend in particular, Alex. Got a little fresh cut I saw. How are you doing, my man?
Yeah, bro. I started my summer cut early, or maybe a vacation cut.
There you go. Yes.
Like it's starting early. Yeah, it's good. It was a nice MMA filled weekend of so much mixed martial arts. It's kind of fucking crazy. And now we got Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus Chanel Gaziev. What?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to get into that. So we go back to the Apex from UFC Mexico, which we will be talking about as well, you guys. But don't forget, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing, all that good stuff. Feel free to drop your questions throughout the show. The ones that are more centered on the topics we're talking about, we'll get to right away. But the ones that are kind of random and whatnot, we will get to at the end of the show. So do that if you want to communicate, comment, all that good stuff. We encourage it on all the platforms we're streaming on here. So, yeah. With that in mind, Alex, I guess let's just jump right on in to the maniacal moment of the week. We got a lot to choose from because we had so many events going on. But why don't you kick us off, sir? What would you say was your maniacal moment of the week?
I mean, it's hard not to go with Brian Ortega, but I think I'm just gonna go with I think I'm gonna go with PFL running over Bellator.
All right. Fair.
I mean, just kind of just ran them right over, which I mean we kind of expected, but I mean to see it, just they went 5-1. Everyone lost except for Hedin Ferreira, who now maybe has a date with Francis Ngannou. Who really knows about that? But yeah, man, that's and it's the reason why the UFC never cross promote, because I think this isn't an original thought, but someone said, like, no one's giving PFL props for putting this event together and putting their neck out of the line. All we're talking about is PFL got their ass kicked. Like, that's the story of the weekend, right? So, hypothetically, if a UFC would have went up against Bellator, there's a good chance that Bellator would have at least won one of those fights, and so then then everybody would go after the UFC of being being shitty and not having the best fighters and everything. So anyway, all that being said, yeah, Bellator reigns supreme. It was not a fucking surprise, but it was kind of wild seeing it.
Yeah, and I mean, it is very interesting because in this specific case, right, of them doing this event, also not an original thought was doing this event. We saw Bellator do it with Ryzen, of course, who are not promotions tied directly together. So, like, I don't think it is as bad, Alex, just to touch on that, like, because they are all PFL fighters now, right? So they kind of shot himself in the foot by doing it this way because of that, right? Like saying, oh, the new guys are better than the ones we already had. But yeah, it was
it was kind of like PFL, you weren't even that good to begin with. So, it's just like, it's kind of like a, oh, we bought all this talent to make us look better because look at this,
Right. And then it's kind of funny too, because the guy who I think very easily you could say did the best aside from Ferreira is Impa, right? Who still isn't necessarily a homegrown PFL guy. Like, he's a very unique case of UFC guy who then completely transformed like his body to get better and all these things. Like, and honestly, I just want to ask you real quick. Like, I thought he won the fight. It was very close. Came down to the first round, I think, but Impa was like, no shame in his loss whatsoever.
Yeah. I thought Evelyn edged it. Also, I had money on it, so I probably a little biased, just a little bit. But if it would have got the decision, I would not have argued it, because I was like, oh well, there goes my parlay, because
Right. Right. Yeah. It was crazy though. A little not a fraud check for Johnny, but he brought him back
Oh,
down a little
oh,
peg.
you already know there was.
Plenty.
I'm not gonna say a million because only a million people watched this event, but there was a couple hundred people on their phones saying we're just ready, being like, "Oh, Jai Allen fucking sucks." They were ready.
Yes, definitely. That is a guarantee. Yeah, those are good ones for sure. I got to go over to the world of Ryzen, of course, because a fantastic Ryzen Landmark 8 show, Alex. I don't know if you caught it all, but this was maybe the best paced event they've ever done, and their pacing's already phenomenal. But the thing about it was quick. This thing got over at 1, Alex, our time.
I don't know shit.
Yeah, it was flying. The intermission was only like 15 minutes, which I don't know why this went by so quickly. Like it did have plenty of finishes and whatnot, but it was a really small, like maybe 4 hour max show going from 9 to 1. If the math is correct there, it was breezy and it was really fun. And I'm going to give shine to the main event because that was probably the fight of the night. Luis Gustavo and Yoshinori Aurier was a war, crazy back and forth. Both guys were super bloody at the end. Just a fun old time. Was wrong on my finish prediction, but I mean, Aurier was almost taken out of there late. And at some points, Gustavo was just a madman. So he can probably be looking at a title shot soon, but really fun one there. Just a fun card overall. But we got a suggestion here from Ghost. We got to give some love to Mr. Craig Jones with his flying triangle on Phil Rowe off of the wall. The Showtime triangle. Is that what you said? Somebody said that in the Yama pit. Very cool and funny at the same time. I mean, not surprising result at all. Craig Jones is an absolute monster. Yeah, great win for him. Maniacal indeed. Oh yeah, and greetings from my partially restricted account. Yes, of course. Thank you to one for that. Jin says, did you guys see Ortega spraying the other ankle when he jumps out of the cage after beating Yair? Maybe that's the maniacal moment. Ortega spraining both his ankles. I didn't see the second part.
I didn't either, but I should definitely go back and look at it.
That's like what's going on with the ankles there, Ortega. My goodness. But yeah, let's do a little recapping of UFC Mexico, even though we're the shine was elsewhere for us, which is totally fair. But some controversies, Alex. I know you were really upset about what the Mendonca fight, which
That was going to be my underrated moment. Just how dog shit the fucking judges were. I mean, yeah, there was three. Robbery is such a strong word, but there was like three very close to robbery fights
on the cusp.
Yeah, on the cusp, and then to give Moreno four of those rounds was just like kind of head scratching. And then like even going further into that fight, like giving some of the rounds that like it was a clearly Royval round, like it was just I don't know what the fuck they were watching. They were smoking that Mexican weed or drinking the Mexico water or something. I don't know what
time.
I don't know what the fuck they were doing, but yeah. Boy, talk about the co-main event. Yair Rodriguez had a title shot in Spain in his hands. Just he was at the 1 yard line, 1 yard line, running for the touchdown. Fucking fumbles it into the end zone. And that sucks. But then again, man, Brian Ortega, he takes so much damage, but just if you can't put this dude away,
it's just his career. That's just his career. Yeah.
My God, dude. But that's what makes him a fan favorite and so fun to watch. Because, dude, you can beat the living fuck out of that dude, and he just keeps coming. Keeps coming. So that was and then to fucking like whoever said it to sprain your ankle during the introduction, like dude, I was just like, he talked about it during his post-fight interview, but like really put yourself in those shoes. You're in a fucking fight where another dude's going to try and hurt you, and you fucking roll on your ankles like just seconds before you fight.
Yeah,
it's just frightening. It's just frightening to me. And then so then you kind of turn it forward, like who's next? Is that enough to give Ortega the fight against Elia. Like I look at it two ways. I think pretty clearly since Max is booked, since Volk hopefully is going to take some time off, like hopefully. I think you do Movsar, but the biggest fight that you can do other than Max and Volk is clearly Ortega.
Yeah.
And that would be a very fun fight. Mexico over Spain. Ortega is a big star in America, and he has the Mexican fans. So, like, that's by far the biggest fight you can do, other than, like I said, Volk and Max. What do you think?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I'm never a guy who likes title shots off of one win, and he's been in that position before. It's just like, is that all he needs to do to get title shots? I think for his sake, let's let him get one more at least. But yeah, it is kind of dependent, I think, on a lot of what other things happen, right? Like, again, Mopes very clearly the guy, as we talked about last week, in my opinion, but maybe not so assuredly gonna be the case, of course. You could have them fight. Like, I think that's probably most likely to happen, assuming no matter what happens with Max, I guess, because he mentioned after what was it? I think somebody on Twitter, somebody was mentioned about, I think maybe the Yair possibility. And then he was like, hey, don't forget about me. So like, he still is interested clearly in fighting for the featherweight title, which does make sense now that Volkanovski's not the champion, but win or lose, again, I think beating Gaethje, fucking forget it, man. Why, why even worry? You got just a whole new world of possibilities there. But if he loses, then that's for sure. But he's making it sound like no matter what happens in the fight, he will still be in play in that. So with that in mind, I could see maybe UFC wanting to, or this could be a direction where you do Movsar Ortega, which holy shit, what a matchup! Like stylistically, that is. Oh boy, that's one where you're like, I'm not worried about maybe Ortega getting thumped up so much, but the scrambles and stuff we'll see in that is, man, just saying that now might be one of the most interesting matchups that I want to see. Put that on the same card as like Holloway Tapuria, like, because Max is the guy in the equation where, yes, you said he's booked right now, but in the grand scheme, best case scenario probably for them to book against Tapuria for biggest fight, right? Spain, wherever, but that's the best place, of course. So that's kind of how I would look at it now. I would still like to see Mopsar, but now I think I've talked myself into more intrigue in Ortega first. It's like, geez. But I mean, we got to hope the guy's healthy too, because he's had these injury problems. And then if he did sprain both ankles or whatever, like, I know sprains aren't going to last forever, but he has had injury problems. So look great though. Like his trips and like grappling past the first round, man, he looked phenomenal, of course, as he ended up, getting the finish.
Scary, yeah, 1,000%. And like he did not do a lot of training at elevation.
Yeah.
So, and I wonder if he just used the elevation tents that you can get. Like, I wonder if that was like his way of doing of like,
yeah,
because he wasn't in Mexico other than fight week. So.
I mean, that kind of makes it even more impressive. So he's just an interesting guy as a fighter. Like it's kind of an anomaly. But Jersey Lee is here. Good to see you. How you doing? What happened at WM Mania? I saw PFL versus Bellator, and I thought that Impa looked great. Does that mean that Evelyn is no longer world class or just a bad day at the office? I would lean more towards the latter there. Or I think we just give more love to Impa. He's better than people give him credit for, I think is kind of the biggest takeaway there. I mean, he nearly finished Johnny, like different ref. I hate saying that, but I do like saying it sometimes. Like it could have been over. As for WM Mania, personal reasons kind of derailed that jersey. I've talked about it a bit in the past, but I fucked up and let the show die pretty much. So yes, RIP. But what would you say in terms of Evelyn there specific? I think he's definitely still very clearly one of the best.
No,
that was 5 rounds he was going to win clearly.
Yeah, 1,000%. And which it should have been. I mean, that was another fucking thing. Like,
very
no 5 rounds, especially because
you're handing out these stupid ass titles.
There was really 2 title fights, right? So, like, why not just make the last 2 fights 5 rounds? Yeah, I think it was a little bit of. I think the location they were fighting at a very weird time. in another country. I Edlin could have overlooked Impa, or Impa is just really good, like that's another thing. And it was because everyone like I thought Impa was probably going to get run over by Edlin, but it made it very competitive. I would say it was just an off performance more than a fraud check.
Yes, agreed. Jimmy asking a very good question. Do you guys know why Moreno looked so bad in his rematch with Royval? He looked sensational against Figgy in the first rematch, had lovely body kicks against France. Yes, he did. But here he looked bad technically. It was very weird, Alex. And I've listened to, shout out to Luke Thomas and the MMA Fighting post shows after this weekend, and kind of everybody was touching on and saying how, this was a very uncharacteristic performance from Moreno, especially from what we've seen recently. Like, I don't remember who it was, but somebody said he was like a flyweight Chuck Liddell just with all the hooks he was throwing. It was very kind of strange. What did this fight say about Moreno to you? And I didn't ask you either. Did you think who should have won? Did you agree with it? I know you're a raw dogger, but
Yeah, no, I thought Royval won, but if Moreno would have gotten it, I would not have argued it because
wasn't a robbery.
It was super. That final round was actually very, very close.
Yeah.
Like Moreno had a lot more control. So like if you would have kind of given that to him, like it is what it is. As for his performance, man, like I don't know. That's the thing is like we don't know. We don't know what the fuck's up, and we won't know until he talks about it because like an easy thing is like, he's taken a lot of fucking damage over his career. Has that worn up? Has that worn on him? The Mexico City altitude, he was there for a minute, but still like maybe it's a fight, and that could have kind of really affected him, and so he couldn't be his wild self, and he was just kind of just throwing hooks. Like no one, we don't know. Like that's the real answer. No one knows, and if they say that they know because they're watching him throw hooks or whatever, like it's just conjecture at this point. Yeah. So
yeah. We'll wait and see, I guess. We'll hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
Rain says, no clever pun today, but I will ask, what do you think of Ortega falling for the 7-year-old eagle story meme that bodybuilders used to motivate people? I mean, it worked for him, right? So, hey, whether it's wrong or not, he used it. It's very funny, but yeah, whatever works, man. That's one of my life sayings, key sayings in my life. Synchro is here. What's up? Do you think? Do you guys think that Yair versus Ilya was more compelling than Ortega versus Ilya, ignoring the loss and styles make fights, and Yair posed different problems to Ilya than Ortega just getting beat up? I think probably for that exact reason, right? Because that's just how Ortega is. Like the most compelling kind of aspects of his fights usually are, all right, can he come back and get a submission? Right? Because he's always fucking dangerous. We've seen this every single time pretty much. And shout out to Jed. He mentioned on the post-fight show that actually in Ortega's career, Alex, he's only outstruck 2 of his opponents. And I'm sure you can pretty clearly guess which ones, but the one is Korean Zombie, which that was like maybe his best performance of his career without a finish. I mean, just overall, he, rinsed Zombie in that fight. Looked amazing. And then the other one is Thiago Tavares, who he only outstruck by like 2 strikes. So the guy he just gets beat up usually more often than not on the feet, which Ilya 100% would do to him. And it would be that hope of, all right, let's see how much punishment he can take and then come back from. With Yair, I think stylistically, it is obviously much more fun.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. The the good thing I would love to see is Toporia's grappling, because Ilya has very good grappling that he really hasn't even shown yet, except I think in his UFC debut against Yusuf Zalal.
Right.
So like Toporia's BJJ versus Ortega's BJJ, like that would be something to watch. But I don't know if it would even get there because Ilya would tune him up on the feet, and then it'd be Ortega surviving to try and get to the ground.
Yes. Yes,
So
100%. And that's the thing too, is like Brian never really even tries to initiate the grappling in like the first round. So like he could just get starched pretty quick, and end up facing a guy with the power that Ilya has. That would be a tougher one. Um, all right, let's see questions here. We got a quick follow up from Jimmy before we move on. Says, is it his coach Sayef Saud that has caused him to regress? Don't look at the stuff Kraus did gambling wise, but he was a great coach for Moreno. Yeah, of course, the gambling stuff shouldn't play a factor into that question. But I mean, Sayef's a good coach, Alex. So
yeah,
adjustments, yeah, I don't know, maybe.
I don't think so. I think it's I don't know, if I were to guess, it's damage and then just the Mexico altitude, because he's 2-1 in Mexico,
He's
so
not great there, yeah.
he's never thrown in Mexico. So just go back to Vegas,
Yeah, keep it out of there. Big Shock chiming in and saying Evlo versus Ortega, title eliminator. So yeah, kind of echoing what I was saying. I'm down for that. It just depends on a lot of other variables, though, like we were saying. So, all right, with that in mind, we've touched on a lot, but let's go to the underrated moment of the week, Alex. There's a lot that we could have missed, but who would you say? I got plenty of options for this, but who is your underrated moment of the week, or multiple you want to highlight here?
Yeah. I'll just say that the judging was dog shit again.
Okay, fair.
And I want to say, I'll give some more love to PFL versus Bellator. AJ McKee versus Clay Collard lasted a minute and 10 seconds. Not something that I
Didn't see that
wanted.
coming. Yeah, bummed us out, kind of.
Not that I did not want that to happen. I wanted three rounds of chaos, but
Yes.
AJ McKee. I mean,
Sensational.
I do think Clay Collard is that guy, and AJ McKee was like, no.
Not tonight, you aren't.
There's levels, bro. There's levels. That was good. I mean, Nemkov, man, just
Best heavyweight in PFL.
bro. I mean, goddamn, dude, that guy's good. That guy's good, and to go in there and just put Bruno to sleep, man, very impressive. Romero versus Santos, we knew it was gonna be a dog shit fight. I'm not gonna say it was like the worst dog shit fight, but it was.
Well, that's the thing, Alex. I honestly thought it wasn't good, but I thought it was a little bit better than expected, which is maybe saying how shitty I thought it would be. Like, there was more strikes thrown than I expected. I thought it would be a big staring contest. Okay.
I mean,
So I was satisfied, honestly.
woohoo!
I had a very low bar for that.
Fucking woohoo, bro!
Yeah, I
Woohoo.
was so surprised. Like, damn, I guess I thought this would be way worse than other people did.
Yeah, woohoo, bro.
Yes, yes.
And Clarissa Shields, I just don't know what the PFL is doing with her. And then her calling out Cyborg, like, bro.
Oh, that's so annoying.
I mean, to have your ego that big, like,
And then to not care about the weight either, which is literally it's only her fault that fight got bumped up 10 pounds.
all right, that's just
Here we go.
Clarissa Shields versus Cyborg in boxing. That would be a competitive, very fun fight. In mixed martial arts, Cyborg said this, that she could beat Clarissa with one arm, and I fucking would put money on that, 1,000 fucking percent.
Yeah.
That would, like, dude, like, the ego is so, and she looked like dog shit against, who the fuck did she fight? Kelsey DeSantis. What? She looked fucking bad against Kelsey, who's 1-3. Like, what?
Mounted.
Like, what are we doing here, bro? Like, I don't know what their plan is for Clarissa Shields, but and I don't know who's watching that fight. I don't know who's excited for the fight. She does not do any traffic, in MMA wise. Like, what the fuck are they trying to do? So
it's only for the delusion, right? Like her saying that did us some decent numbers. But
yeah.
that's
So
all.
I don't know. yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're doing with her, and whatever. It is what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, fair enough. Ghost saying his underrated moment for me was Ortega actually using cage wrestling effectively. He hit the we call the broomstick off the body lock, which was great to see rather than his bad takedowns in open space. Yeah, I mean, that's why I was very impressed too with like how he adapted in the second round and beyond. Was he's not the male version of Mackenzie Dern, but he's as close to it, I think, as if there was to be one. Like typically his takedowns aren't too great historically, like still better than Dern's, I think, from what we've seen in his career. But yeah, he was sensational after the first round. So good shout there, Ghost. Synchro says PFL scraping the bottom of the barrel for Clarissa Shields. She's fighting women from the depths of the ocean. Is she getting paid a lot more? Is that why she's doing MMA? I think so.
No,
I think
could be.
so. Because she really obviously does not have much interest in getting better. More like
Well,
Dern is the female Ortega. I mean, I guess we could go either direction there.
yeah. If well, then the PFL should use whatever money they're paying Clarissa Shields and go pay another free agent.
Yeah, no doubt. There's some other people we could invest in. But okay, so yeah, I also had McKee on. Oh, I didn't have him on my underrated moment actually. So okay, that's great that you mentioned him. But from the card, we haven't mentioned anything of Aaron Pico yet, who, I mean, this was flawless 10 out of 10 performance from him, just completely styled on Henry Corrales, who was essentially a punching bag coming on short notice in this fight. But, you know, they had the history. He was the first guy to beat him, knocked him out. It was crazy. That I was there for that one. The place, I don't know if I've ever heard such an eruption from the crowd, which is kind of insane for some of the events that I've been at and that we've been at together, Alex. But that was a wild moment when Pico lost the first time in this fight. I mean, he literally looks like a new guy. He's got hair now. He's got all this. He is. I mean, some of his elbows, just the spinning attacks that were like sharp. The only like negative was he almost DQ'd and crushed Henry's skull against the cage with the knee, but he missed it, thankfully. But God, he was just he looked incredible. Like this was a very great performance. So we got to give some love to Aaron Pico. Then I got to shout out some of the ones over at Ryzen too. Daichi Abe, this guy just continuing to rack up the highlights on his highlight reel. I mean, former UFC welterweight. He's just killing it. He's on a streak. It's kind of a shame though, because in Ryzen they don't have like a real welterweight division. So he's just kind of knocking dudes out just for fun. It's super fun. He's looking great doing it, but there's not much of an end goal unless he tries to fight for a title. I don't know, somewhere else, maybe deep or whatnot, but he's killing it in Ryzen. So Daichi Abe, if like he's becoming must-watch TV very easily. And then so is Sari Oshima, who came in on short notice and got a just super slick armbar on Claire Lopez. Like, man, Sari Oshima has become one of those fighters. She's one of the best atomweights in the world, deep champion, all these things. She's become one of those fighters that, again, you gotta watch because it is always guaranteed scrambly fun. She's willing to be on her back. She'll get sweeps like every single fight. You are gonna get grappling chaos with her. So she is just so fun to watch. And again, pulls off a submission somewhat out of nowhere in a fight she was probably losing. It was competitive, but I think Claire was edging her out. And then, yeah, short notice, looking great. She wants that title fight. Still would love to see Izawa versus her. That is a very fantasy stylistic matchup, but not sure about that one for reasons that we won't get into on this show. But shout out to Sari. Phenomenal stuff too. A lot of great performances this week overall, Alex. So, all right, let's move on to what we got coming up though. Mania mainline ahead of UFC Vegas 87. Really a damper. But we also have one 166 though. So I'm going to give you some of those. But Alex, what are you most excited for this week? What's your whistle the most?
Also, I wanted to say my prospect, my spotlight prospect last week, Jacoby Smith,
Yes.
fucking flatlined the dude. So gotta keep your eye on him. Yeah. So yeah. It's tough.
Tough week.
So UFC wise, I will say Uh, Matt Schnell versus Steve Erceg was probably going to be just fun. Like that, honestly, like that fight, I'm looking forward to the most. It's just so fun. Matt Schnell's always in a car wreck.
Yep.
And Steve Erceg is just sometimes too. Like he likes to get into chaos. So I'm looking forward to that one. Alex Perez versus Mohamed Mokaev. There's a good chance that if Mokaev goes out there and looks good, he could leapfrog everybody and get that title shot and
All
fight.
things considered, yeah.
Like there's a very good chance. The thing is like Alex Perez is really good, and if he can actually make it to a fight healthy and like, Mokaev has looked like he was losing that Tim Elliott fight until until he wasn't. You always like that argument, but there's a few other fights like he hasn't looked like just unbeatable. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So for that. Also, I want to say Gamebred Bare Knuckle MMA is this actually after the UFC this weekend. Junior Dos Santos versus Alan Belcher. Got some fun ex-UFC fighters on there. Chase Sherman, Jesse Ronson, Rat Garbage, Brandon Jenkins. So that's one to look at. And then Tonley for 166.
Yes.
I always love watching Tonley. Kind of sucks he one on the Contender Series, one on Tough.
Weird career.
One on Tough, lost on Tough, one Contender Series, never went to the UFC. It's just one of those guys that don't give a shit. So
yes, but things have worked out pretty well for old Tonley as he is rematching Tang Kai, which should be a fantastic fight for the title there, which is also one of my underrated my main lines here this week, of course. And he's coming off that phenomenal the heel hook that he had on Framinov in 62 seconds. That training with Ryan Hall paying off very clearly. So he's becoming dangerous everywhere. You love to see it. So looking forward to that one. And I agree, Steve Erceg and Steve Erceg and Matt Schnell. Yes, that is guaranteed, I think, to be pretty safe bet as the fight of the night for UFC Vegas 87. At least that's the one I'm definitely most looking forward to. I'm intrigued by what we'll get now with Rosas and and Tercios, because that's is that happening or not? I don't know. It was all over the place. No,
not happening.
Okay, all right, forget that. But it will be weird when it happens. Yeah. So Umar returning just for him specifically is kind of going to be interesting to see. And then over in one again, RDR versus Malik in 2. Like, I think it shouldn't look too different from the first fight because I think Anatoly Malikin is a top 5 heavyweight in the world. He is just so goddamn talented, and it was kind of a crime what happened the first time they fought, and now they're just like redoing it at a different weight, having Malikin try to steal RDR's belts. I like both of them. I like watching both of them fight. I don't like watching them fight each other because of the outcome, but because they're fighting, I'm curious to see it. And again, Malikin, I will say, is one of those guys who's just terrible matchup. For Ngannou, he would be the perfect one to bring in for that, or just to have him on a roster if he was in UFC or PFL. Oh my goodness, not so much PFL because there's only a couple fights there, but God, he is so damn good in every area. But yeah, it's a weird week. It is a weird week, Alex. And, we do our predictions. So let's just fucking get it over with. The main event, Rozenstruik versus Gaziev. It's pretty much the question is Shamil Gaziev, is he legit? Is he the real deal here? I mean, top 15 in his second fight, potentially. How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah. What's funny is he goes from the first fight of the night on a prelim to a main event.
How about that? That's all you need to know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you said it perfectly. Like, how good is this guy? He's beat some really good guys.
And he's a finisher. Only one decision.
1,000%. And Jairzinho only loses to the,
Jairzinho losing streak.
Whoa! Ding. Yeah.
I like Jairzinho. That came right to mind. I had to
Yeah,
say.
it's pretty clever. I mean, actually, I might use that, to be honest
There
with
you
you.
go.
Yeah, he beats all the guys he's supposed to, loses to anyone that's elite above him. So this is the question: is so all right? I don't really give a fuck. I'm just gonna say Jairzinho good because of the
Experience.
Yeah.
Better competition. That is always a massive thing though in these kind of matchups, Alex, right? Like level of competition. Of course, Jairzinho, his whole UFC career has been pretty much fighting, top good enough quality guys. This is pretty similar. I mean, this is pretty much the heavyweight version of Piper Hermanson to an extent, right? Like I mean, in terms of the divisional placement, maybe not styles exactly, right? Because obviously Jairzinho known for his striking, kickboxing, all that stuff. But yeah, if Gaziev kind of tries to exploit the grappling as people have just kind of found out to do against Jairzinho, I think he should be totally fine and totally capable of doing that. But if he decides to strike, then he's just playing with fire and could probably get caught. And man, God forbid this goes past the third round. It could be pretty sloppy. And I would assume that Gaziev might gas out. Jairzinho's actually shown pretty decent cardio throughout the times that he's had longer fights, so not exactly worried about him. But for Gaziev's sake and not getting finished, he might want to, do everything he can in his power. Fight smart, try and take this fight to the ground, which I think he will. We've seen enough. If he's done his tape study and whatnot, he will go for that. So I'm going to believe in him because it's heavyweight and weird and shit. So I think he'll submit Jairzinho. Maybe not the first round like Jalton did, but I think second round he'll get it before he starts having any real issues. So it's a main event, you guys. And what was it? I think Jimmy here. Yes, he said frozen streak. I like losing streak. Frozen streak versus Gaziev, the event that was the Saudis boycotted. Yes, it was. Understandably. So, oh man, it's so funny. So funny. I mean, what else is there to say?
Yeah.
It's tough. Okay, well, with that in mind, we will move on to Spotlight, Phil. Alex, I'm gonna just tell you right now, there's like no women competing this week or any that like aren't debuting or have one fight. So I don't have anybody this week. So I'm gonna just give you the spotlight. Who gets all the shine?
Yeah. I'm gonna go Vinicius Oliveira, Loke Dog. He's coming off a first round knockout on the Contender Series last season, and talk about must watch fighters. This is him. He's so fun to watch. He's very violent. And he's 28 years old, 19-3. He's got a lot of experience coming into the UFC, and he knocks people out. That's all you really got to know about this dude. He's violent, and I'm really glad that someone stepped in to fight him. He's fighting some dude on 4 days' notice, and so he should style on him. Should get a knockout of the night, whatever. That's about. I mean, I don't really think Javid Bashrat's a prospect anymore. I mean, he's prospect to non-hardcore MMA watchers. Maybe. I mean, but then again, like he really only had 4 UFC fights, so. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of a good
14-0. Yeah, it's kind of just how you just. I think he's right border for me, right? Because he's literally not a contender yet, but he's very clearly good. I think he's like borderline. I'd probably still say he's a prospect, but he's racking up experience and he's gonna get there, right? Especially if he wins this week, he's gonna be one fight away. His next fight after a win here would be top 15. You would assume. Maybe the division's deep.
I mean, you would assume, but he's already had offers from the top 15. They all turned him down, so he might be in a position where Whatever.
Fair
So
enough.
yeah, Loke Dog. That's Spotlightville. All right, let's go. Next.
All right. Loke Dog, you got it. As Smudge is yelling at me down here. I don't know what. I already fed him today. My goodness. You want to talk about the movies, don't you? So segue to the Trail X Movie Club. And I got to put the spoiler tag back on you guys for Oscar season, as we are all caught up now finally to the last movie, which we both haven't seen. So that is very fun, which, I'm an idiot. I already had the spoiler tag up. Adjusted it for no reason. But all right. So this week, you guys, like I said, caught up with Alex. So I watched Zone of Interest and Past Lives. He watched Anatomy of a Fall. And then next week or this week, we will jump on Poor Things. Close things out with next week, our big. It's going to be a half UFC 299, half Oscar special, Alex, because we got to rank all the movies. We got to make our predictions and then talk about Poor Things specifically. Like, I'm really excited. It's going to be fun. So we're going to be half and half on that show pretty much. Try not to go too long over, but yeah, we'll run through that stuff. But first, before we do that, since this is the Sandra Huller Spectacular, we got 2 movies of hers that we'll be talking about. Let's start off with, we'll save the best for last, in my opinion. But we'll start off with Zone of Interest, Alex, which I watched last night. What's so funny, huh? Yeah, I mean, so with Past Lives and Zone of Interest, I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't too far off of disagreeing with you. I think you pretty much summarized both of them pretty well without your spoiler talk, like your non-spoiler talk. So I'm curious to maybe hear more specifics that you might have for me here. But for Zone of Interest in particular, overall, yeah, it was fine. Fairly pretentious in some moments, like you were kind of saying. Like, if you want to talk about the most pretentious movies we've watched so far, it's definitely this and Maestro. But I still enjoyed this more than Maestro because that one just, yeah, didn't do it for me, as we talked about. In terms of my notes and specifics, most unnecessarily long black intro screen of all time, Alex. I mean, that was like legit 5 minutes of waiting for the movie to start. Was kind of weird. And I kind of get, I guess, why some of those types of things in the movie happened. But yeah, from the get-go, you get an unsettling rumbling in the background, which is obviously coming from the camp, but it's there throughout the whole movie, and it's just kind of like, damn, it's like weird. You get used to it, but it's there. It's very noticeably there, this rumbling of what's kind of happening next door. And it's not funny, but I'm going to say it's funny because I didn't realize with the idea of this movie, and when you were talking about it, like, I didn't realize how close they were going to be to Auschwitz. Like, it's right next door. It's right across the wall, as you can see in the picture here. That there it is. They pretty much live at it, but not within the horrors of things, which is kind of the whole point of this movie. And it's just kind of dark and crazy in some moments, not in like terms of things that you see, but for specifics, the conversation they had early in the movie about the chambers, super dark, but like normalized. That was a lot of what this movie was. Very, very effective way of using sound without sight to depict horror. I mean, it was phenomenal at that. That was probably the biggest highlight of the movie and what it was going for, I think. It's all ignorance and a blitz. Ignorance is bliss in a way, at least from the kids' perspectives, all the children in the movie. That's kind of how I was taking that. Was just like, man, it's just all kind of normal to them without realizing what is going on. This is just a random thing that I had to put down, but Rudolph's SS tank top in the river I thought was hilarious because it just looked like a big sticker on his shirt. That's just a tiny little, not a nitpick, but an observation. I couldn't tell, Alex, who the thermal girl was dropping the apples. Like, I couldn't put any significance to that. Or I know there was a part that incited a fight from her doing that, that we don't see, but that part seemed kind of unexplained to an extent. I mean, that might be a part of history that I was ignorant about. I don't know if you have anything to add about that.
Don't know, don't care.
But yeah, overall, it was fine. It was dark, all that. It just didn't leave you with much that I guess you didn't already know or expect, if that makes sense. Right? Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, it's an unsettling, makes you uncomfortable. I think Alvin just took the words right out of my mouth.
The visual zone interests were
Yeah.
interesting, not captivating, but unsettling. Yeah, it was. You did exactly what it wanted to with that.
Yeah, it's a Holocaust movie without showing the Holocaust. Like,
Oh, that's perfect. Perfect summarization. My God. Yeah.
and Hollywood loves a Holocaust movie, so that's why I got nominated.
It's very bizarre. It's very bizarre to me, though. Like, now that we are about done with all the movies, and we'll talk about more of this next week, but a lot that don't make sense to be nominated. I don't think like this. I think six out of 10 for me at best. I was thinking about 5, but I was like, I did do those things. The things that did really well, it did really well. So for that alone and the artsiness, I guess, of it, I do think, it deserves above a 5, but no more than a 6 easily. Alvin says what really unsettled me in the movie was that mundane, not the human atrocities being committed. That the mundane, I think I get what you're saying there, Alvin. Maybe worded a little bit oddly, but yeah. Mateus here says, having been to Auschwitz, it is a tremendously disturbing place to visit. I can only imagine. Yeah, that's not one of those kind of tourist type things that I have on my list to check out. But if I was around, then I'd definitely, yeah, it's definitely a unique a place. There's a lot of history there, very important stuff. But yeah, I think we've summed that up the best we can. So I'm sure you just want to move on from this one. It's here's the thing. Here's what I want to say. It's one of those that we're not gonna remember really.
I've already forgotten about it.
Yeah. So there you go. So all right. And yes, of course, as I said, we will talk about Anatomy of a Fall at the end here. Sandra Hiller's year. Goddamn, has anyone been in 2 movie noms? I'm sure that's happened before, Alex, but not that it's coming right off the top of my head here. So good for her. Gonna give her the shout for that. Much better in Anatomy of a Fall than this one, but still was fine in it. She was probably the best acting in this movie, but we'll move on to Past Lives before we get to that. So let me pull it up here. Bum, bum, bum. And again, like, I liked this movie. I liked it more than Zone of Interest because, more relatability for sure. For sure. Just right off the top here. But it was good. It was a very good, solid, realistic in a kind of drawn out, realistic in a fantastical kind of way for a romance, right, Alex? Like, their story and stuff is very obviously. I don't think that it's not a common type of story to be told or have or all that stuff. And in a way, not a romance. Like, it's, I would say, unique, very unique story and all that kind of stuff. But I did like it. I liked it more than Zone of Interest. I think I did like it about the same as you, though. I will say specifically, I thought the start was very fun, kind of putting you in the bystanders perspective of like guessing who are these people to each other. And it starts out pretty much at the end of the movie and then goes back in time and kind of loops around. I thought the time elements of the movie were done pretty well. Beautiful scenery in Korea. Like, this movie was gorgeous. Like, some of the shots that they shot, excellently done. A lot of stuff popped. A lot of kind of little hidden messages kind of in the backgrounds too, if you paid attention. But like, for example, the symbolism of the staircase in the very beginning with Hae Sung and Na Young going different ways. I liked a lot of those little things they did. The long distance between them in the middle portion of the movie, I thought was filmed fucking greatly. That was really well told from a story perspective. The the past lives scene, just overall, that storytelling was super fun. To use the movie title cleverly, but it got me a little. I liked it. The chemistry between the two leads, of course, was very good. The tension from them reuniting, I thought was you could really feel that in like not a bad way, but just like kind of what are they thinking and all that kind of stuff. Man, I will tell you though, Alex, like Arthur's overthinking. Arthur's overthinking in bed. And like that part of the movie, I was like, I can't even explain this because I know exactly. I know 1,000,000% of being in that spot in a different way, but like as a big time overthinker throughout my life. It's something that I've had to combat in just everything. My God, that really resonated with me. And it was totally awkward once they were all three hanging out, of course. And their bar conversation at the very end was very, very great too. Just the dialogue in this movie was very good, as it should be strong for this type of thing. But yeah, it was good, fine, solid. I think it ended well, and you totally spoiled it for me last week by saying it might not go how you think, but I don't want to say that's spoilers because like if they would have got together at the end, right? Let's talk about the ending. If they would have got together at the end and like did that shit like that every other movie does, it completely defeats the purpose of the whole rest of the movie, like or what it's trying to say. So I do like that part. It was realistic and she's not just going to throw away her life for this guy who really, she hasn't known too much since they were kids. So it was fascinating in that way. And, I've kind of stewed on it a little bit. And it's helped me, I think, personally a little bit. This will be one I remember for the message that it gave. So I did think it was very solid, very good, comfortable 7, I think. Not sure though. Like as much as I did like it and enjoy it, I don't think it probably should have been nominated.
I feel like I feel like it was Academy like, we need an Asian movie. What is, like I just feel like we need something to like past lives. Let's go.
Yeah. Since Parasite, we gotta get some Asian movies here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's good if you're somebody who is into like kind of romances or things similar to that. Like it was curious because usually with romantic movies and things like that, I always expect some comedy, but there was like maybe one laugh I got out of this movie, like one genuine like funny moment, and I don't even remember what it was. So like this movie is strictly like a romance. I wouldn't even necessarily say a drama.
Why do you think they took the 12-year break after reuniting? Like, do you think it was just because like it wasn't going anywhere except for just Skype?
Well, they were gonna have to wait because of the things they were doing in their separate lives, right? Like he said he couldn't come to visit her until like a year and a half because of I think his school stuff, and then for her, she was doing her work and her writing, so it would have been like a year, and I think they just didn't want to get too attached to the point of it causing more pain and emotional damage. So yeah. Which again, I mean, plays into it, and that's a part of the long distance thing, which is why I fucking don't do it no more. But yes, Alvin says another character-driven movie, 100%. Mr. Riggs, do you enjoy character-driven movies where you get really invested in the characters? Of course. I mean, those are my favorite ones. I mean, a movie should have one well-developed character in it. Right? Like I can enjoy something that is just completely about a scene or something like that. Like let's say Dunkirk or 1917, a movie that's about something happening and these people are just kind of there, right? Or like war movies, you get that a lot, where it's kind of more about the war, the thing that happened than the people. But no, I'm all about characters for sure, Alvin. As you said, I think the ending like Past Life, I think endings like Past Lives really makes you think about the value it brings to a relationship. Yes, I agree. But all right, so that is Past Lives, you guys. And now I know for a fact that Alex probably did not like Anatomy of Fall as much as I did. So I'm very curious to hear what he thought.
I
So,
mean, going into this movie, you had hyped it up to be a fucking must-see true crime court drama. I hyped it up for myself, hyped it up for my wife. Like, oh my god, this is gonna be
I did
fucking
my job.
Jesus Christ, bro. And with all that being said, I mean, it was a good movie. It was a good movie. Sandra Huller she was fine. The kid was really good. I think the best actor in the movie was the dog. By far,
That's a good
by
point.
far, by far. I mean, you're gonna act like you're dead and then come back to life. Like, pretty fucking good. I mean, if by far the best actor in the movie. And yeah, I really, it's first of all, the French court system, it's pretty goddamn they're intense.
Right. Yes.
Goddamn, and it's kind of scary you're being tried and you're testifying by yourself in a country that you're not fluent in, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can speak it, but you're not the best. You're German, you speak English, but you don't speak French that good. So
Yes.
that in itself is fucking terrifying. Like,
Yes.
oh my god, like, and the only witness being a blind child was a very good little twist on it, and I thought that was very clever. The thing about it is, I don't like how it just kind of she got acquitted, and we watched the entire fucking movie of them grilling her, do the entire fucking movie of the court case, and then you don't see the fucking end of the case. Like, what the fuck is that about? What?
That's true.
It's fucking stupid as fuck. That annoyed the fuck out of me. Like, I don't need to know. Like, oh, like, I don't know. Like, if she really did it, she really. I just really the entire fucking. You're gonna grill this chick, and then we get a off screen. Oh, she was acquitted. I'm coming home to see my son. What? So that in itself
Too
really
cliche, Alex. Too expected.
that in itself kind of really docked the movie for me. Other than that, it was a fine movie.
So then I gotta ask you, do you think she did it though?
Man,
I've been pretty on the fence about it. And my thing was, okay, they never found like a weapon or anything like they were kind of saying, but really his fall to me doesn't make a lot of sense. She wasn't that upset about it either, which, kind of makes sense with how things were going with their relationship, whether he killed himself or not, or just something happened. But I think they leave it with very questionable. I lean towards her doing it, but I don't know. What do you think?
I've watched a lot of true crime. Me and my
Yes.
wife watched a lot of true crime documentaries, a lot of true crime podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of true crime books, read a lot of true crime. I think she did kill her husband. I mean, it just kind of makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
Of everything that they kind of set up in the movie, and just watching us watching a lot of true crime, it kind of makes sense. Like, there's like nothing else. Like, it's either her or her son did it. Like, it's one of the two.
Yeah. And I definitely don't think it was him.
Exactly. So I just like, they did set the suicide up. Like, maybe that could have been it, but like the blood splatter.
Yeah.
Even the autopsy, like they said, blunt force trauma. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of seems like it was her, but that's the dumbness of the movie. We don't really fucking know.
Come on, you like a little ambiguity.
Sometimes, but I mean, on a true crime, like on a court case, like I like some finality,
Yes. Okay. Because that's what it is all about. Yeah.
Yes, 1000%. Like,
So, all right, rating, and did you enjoy it more than the past two that we just talked about?
Rating, I'd say it was a 7 out of 10, and I liked it more than Past Lives and Zone of Interest.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't sure how you felt about like you know, those kind of legal dramas.
Yeah, no, I love like that stuff's very fascinating to me. And like I said, I'm a true crime junkie. Anything true crime, I'm gonna watch it. So like this fall, like it was right up my alley. I just it really burnt me with the ending of like you're not gonna say how she got acquitted. Like that's the whole part of the fucking
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, that didn't bother me very much. I guess I was just so wrapped up in everything else. But yeah, I enjoyed it very, very much, obviously. But all right, I'm going to enjoy Poor Things, I believe, as that is what we will close out our Oscar movie-thon, you guys, before the big show next week. And then, Alex, we will have to discuss if we're going to take a break for your vacation. Don't know if I should go one-man show here. I prefer not to these days. Well, we'll figure that out off the air.
It's tough because it's going to be after 299, so 299 Fallout.
Shit, yeah, I might have to. I'd have to go solo. You guys, let us know in the comments below.
Or you get a good old Jesse to come on.
Oh yes, that would be fun. Get a guest. We'll see. We'll see what we can think up, as I will be in Vegas at Alex's house, so maybe I can find somebody in person.
That's fine.
But all right, now we will get to our Q&A portion to close out the show. You guys, we've made a spectacular time, actually. I'm pretty impressed with us here. All right, Rio kicking us off, asking, burning question for you guys. When is event weight calculated? Before they leave the dressing room, when they arrive to the arena?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Yeah, that is a good one. And he mentioned, I think, Aaron Bronstetter said something about that, I think.
If I were to guess, it would be either
sometime in the dressing room, yeah.
When they get to the arena and they check in, like they check in with the commission, probably makes the most sense. Or even at maybe the fire hotel, they have commission there, and so you weigh in at the fire hotel.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. James asking, I just saw on the X app that I saw this morning as well, that Fiziev said the UFC is looking into 165 and 175. Why are fighters making stuff up? Askren did the same thing. I mean, he might not be. Maybe he did hear this, but I just can't believe it. I still.
You have reporters saying that was going to be the main event of UFC 300.
Maybe that's what he's going off of. James.
Fighters are very gullible.
Yeah. I'm not sold. Let's leave it at that. Rain says, how familiar are you with the UFC class action lawsuit and Michael Chandler being part of the defense? I know that he is a part of it now, along with what Jalen Bisping stepped up. I think Cowboy too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, been following, not super in-depthly, just kind of surface level, but it's fucking pretty hilarious. I would say, especially Chandler of all people, is very, very funny.
Being a very good company man, bro.
Oh, yes, he is.
Leave him alone.
Leave him alone. James asking, oh yeah, I forgot about Aaron Pico. Why do you guys think he can look world-class one fight and get a freak accident in the next one? I mean, you got to think about this. He's been an athlete like his entire life, right? So I think that's just maybe one of those cases of weird things happening or injuries just from overtime, wear and tear to an extent. Like, he's still young and fine and all that. But yeah, he's had weird things like the shoulder, which is I'm sure what you're referring to. But, just think he's been doing this kind of stuff for a long time is what I would chalk it up to. Jimmy says, what do you guys think about the fantasy matchup in Horiguchi versus Pantoja? Oh, that's just beautiful. Is that why Sakibara met up with Dana? Hopefully it's not what Ghost said in its Power Slap Expanded Horizon. So I'm glad you actually touched on this, Jimmy, because I have answers to both of these. Not specific answers, but strong indications that can lead to answers here. No, that's not why they met up. And don't worry, Power Slap or Bare Knuckle will not be in Japan anytime soon, especially involved with Ryzen. But overall, that's just not quite their culture. They appreciate actual technical aspects. Um, but yeah, as for Horiguchi Pantoja, I would love that. But problem is, Horiguchi is literally stuck between like two contracts right now. He is a PFL / Bellator fighter and also the Ryzen flyweight champion. So he would have to figure out a way to get out of there, which from my knowledge and talking to that I've done behind the scenes, that is not why Sakibara met up with Dana. I'm not sure if there was a specific reason. They just kind of get together sometimes. Just I'm sure they talk about these types of things, but think about this. You think Dana's going to fucking set up a meeting with Sakibara to talk about the flyweight division? Give me a break. And shell out mad bank to a guy that they let go a couple of years ago. Not going to happen, unfortunately, as amazing as it would be, unless they're in a real pinch, right? And they'd have to find a way to buy out those contracts between two other promotions. So unlikely, unfortunately, even though Horiguchi said he does want to come back to the UFC, which is interesting at this point in his career. But problem is they're not going to pay him as much as he'll want, Alex, because he's quite set up where he is. So yeah, that'd be amazing though, right? That's best case fight in fantasy world.
I've been selling it. I've been pitching it everywhere I go. Anyone that asks me, I'm like, it's right there. The Gooch.
Yep.
He's right there. UFC 301. Let's do it.
I'm very fascinated to see what they do with that main event. Synchro says, would you guys recommend watching the KSW card? If so, which fight should I skip and which should I watch? I can't recommend the specific ones because I wasn't watching along too closely, but yeah, it looked like a super fun card. I mean, KSW always delivers. It is always a great time over there in Europe. They got that scene on lockdown, and they had some soccer kick fights that allowed, the good old same rule set.
Pride, baby. Pride never dies.
Pride never die. Rio asking, why is Lacerda still in the UFC? Alan Nascimento is the second coming of Charles Oliveira, not Lacerda. He hasn't won a fight and got subbed by the slowest triangle choke. Well, it was courtesy from kind of what happened before, right? So he's probably done now.
I mean, you fight and shoot a box, you're gonna get your 4 contracts or 4 contracted fights. In his case, he got 6 contracted fights. Same question can be asked, why is Jamie Pickett in the UFC? He's fighting Eric Anders this weekend. He's on a 5-fight losing streak.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to play this game, but he is asking, who is worse, Devin Clark or Lacerda for worst motherfucker in the UFC?
Lacerda.
Oh, Clark's at least one.
Yeah.
Synchro says, you both know that I'm the biggest Linton Vassell fan. Yes, we do. After watching Bader get crushed by some guy, do you think that Bader would have lost to the concrete hands of Milton Gates, Linton Vassell? I don't know, because I mean, he has already beat him, hasn't he? And the thing is, Linton Vassell's a big dude, but Hannah Ferreira is a bigger dude, and just kind of utilize that perfectly. I mean, see, afterward, I feel like the fight would be closer than I would have felt before, Alex, but I think Bader still beats Vassell at this point.
Kind of.
Yeah. Don't care too much. Nah. We'll see what happens with Linton. Ghost says, you guys know what I like to do when there is a bad card like this weekend. I post a picture of the Mick Maynard post where he asks where the last bad fight card was. That's always a fun thing to do. It's happening now. Singer says, are you familiar with Open Note Grapple? He writes concise articles about grappling in combat sports. What's your opinion of him saying the combat sports is a clown show and always has been? Not familiar with Open Note Grapple, but I mean, for the most part, I think, right? For the most part, not entirely, but there's definitely some clowny moments. Have you heard of this gentleman, Alex?
I have not heard of him, but I mean, if you describe combat sports as a clown show, I mean, it is
a vote for me.
I mean, it's not a clown show, but is it a clown show? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those,
Yeah.
not
That's
one.
the question.
But is it?
But is it really not? Yeah. And then Rio here closing us out potentially says, "Can you get the legendary Chris Presnell on here?" Hey, maybe. Maybe I'll hit him up for that week. Definitely always good times with Chris. And then we did get some more. Oh wow, we got some spam on Facebook. That's fun. But Rain says, "Why is Michael Chandler part of the defense for the UFC class action lawsuit where he fought for Bellator during the time in question?" That is a great point. I didn't even think about that aspect of it. He's supporting his company. That's pretty much all it is. Alex said he's company manning real hard.
Hey, I need to DM this Faith because I'm trying to get $7,000 on this spam DM, bro.
Yeah,
Spam.
love to see it. All right. Well, on that note, you guys, we will play it on out now. Another episode, another Tuesday, Sound and Pound here. Follow me and Alex at @DrakeWorks_, at Alex Behunin, MMA Mania on all the platforms imaginable. We got all the goods coming out. So let's get to Shameless plugging away. Alex, I know you dropped Junior Dos Santos, Jorge Masvidal. I think that one was last week, though, right? But what do we got in the pipeline? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I dropped Junior Dos Santos, who thinks Henry Ferrer would knock out Francis Ngannou.
Certainly possible.
His teammate, Henry Ferrer, knocks out.
Gotta specify.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't believe him or if I do believe him.
I've been saying it, Alex. That's the most MMA thing ever. Will be Francis Ngannou losing his debut, which was my bold prediction this year, if you remember at the start of our show this year.
My prospect of the month just went out this morning. So go check that out. And my tidbits for this, can we call it a UFC event? I mean,
it's an event.
Is it something?
It's a show.
Yeah, whatever's going on this weekend will be awesome random tidbits on it.
There you go. And the man, Dan Shapiro, coming in late. We appreciate you, sir. Glad to see you. Yes, thank you. But yeah, as for me, you guys, man, I've been a hot stretch of interviews lately, and I'm kind of trying to get to the end of like all these projects finishing up. So thankfully, slowing it down a bit here. But yeah, so Broaden Horizon 36 did come out last week before the show. It had Claire Lopez, who fought and lost to Sarah Yoshima, but also Reina Kubota is on there, who fights next month. I guess Yuri Shim. Great stuff always with Reina. Then yeah, Shannon Briggs caught up with him after catching up with Rampage. So we got both the guys who are going to be fighting each other. Very fun time with the Cannon. Let's go, champ. He's just always a ball of energy. Good times with him. And I had to ask him, Alex, about the paddleboard story with Klitschko because it's one of my favorite videos. But one of the best videos on the internet. So listen to us talk about that. And then tomorrow, finally going to drop my chat with Zoltan Bathory, the Five Finger Death Punch guitarist and Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Judo black belt, who is involved with PGF, which, man, the tournament, if you don't know anything about it, you guys, it sounds super duper fun. $100,000 prize, 4 teams of 5 going at it in April in Las Vegas. I'm strongly considering going to it just out of the pure entertainment aspect. I think it's going to be a very, very good time. So we'll have more info on that and some music chat and good stuff with Zoltan tomorrow dropping. And then some other little projects, of course, in the works. But other than that, that'll about do it. So until next week, you guys, enjoy the stuff happening this week, and we will preview the big ol' sexy UFC 299 card and give you our Oscar special, make all our final thoughts and notes and predictions and all that good stuff for the movies coming up. But until then, we will see you next time. Stay safe and stay sane, everybody. Peace.